This video is supported by viewers like you. If you want to help me make more things like this, consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you. How do you get rid of your citizenship? Bit of a weird question, I know. Usually it's all about how to get citizenship, which conditions to meet, which hoops to jump through. It's a privilege, you see. Not every random Jimmy should get one. Those people should earn their citizenship, I always say. How have you earned it? Son, shut up. Acquiring citizenship is hard, but it can be just as hard to get rid of it. We're talking requirements, fees, bureaucratic hurdles, and so on. And even if you're doing everything to the letter, it's still possible your country just won't let you go. Ideally, citizenship renunciation goes like so. You go take all necessary documents to a government office, say you'd like to renounce your citizenship, human behind desk says okay, gives you a piece of paper confirming said renunciation, and you're done. Ideally. In reality, every country can design this process as it wants though. There is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, saying that everyone has a right to change their nationality, meaning citizenship, but it's not quite that easy. In practice, you don't change your citizenship, but acquire one, and shortly before or after that, drop the other one. So you can't just show up and ask a civil servant to swap your French citizenship for a Micronesian one. Citizenship switching service would be pretty nice, doesn't exist though. But before we go deeper into the renunciation jungle, a quick word about ethnicity, nationality, and citizenship. Ethnicity means there's a people, and through language, descent, culture, personal preference, and so on, you're a part of it. No written confirmation or documentation needed. Citizenship, on the other hand, is only given out by states and confirmed in official records and documents. In a nation-state, most citizens have the same ethnicity. For example, Austrian citizens also being part of the Austrian people. Doesn't have to be that way though. You can just as well be an Austrian citizen of Croatian, Catalonian, or Kurdish ethnicity. Nationality lies somewhere between ethnicity and citizenship, because it's sometimes used synonymously with the one, then the other, and sometimes as a kind of citizenship light, with only part of the rights and duties of full citizenship. US nationals, for example, when they are not also US citizens, can vote in local but not state or federal elections. The point being, nationality is really imprecise. So let's just use citizenship so we're all on the same page. Now we know what citizenship means, but how do we get rid of it? As easy as possible is the process in Tonga. Only one condition required. You need a foreign citizenship. As soon as you do, you can waltz right in, present your foreign passport, and you're already done. Here's your confirmation. That's it. That's it. Have a nice day. Thank you. I'd have never thought traitor. What? Nothing. Tonga does not have a legal process for renouncing your citizenship, but they do have an absolute ban on dual citizenship without exceptions. Acquiring any other citizenship immediately invalidates your Tongan one. Such an auto-renunciation, though usually not as strict, can be found in lots of countries without fully accepted dual citizenship, like Austria. Piece of junk. If you have Austrian citizenship but get any other, you lose it automatically, just like in Tonga. But what's different is that in Austria, exceptions for dual citizenship can be made. For example, for children with only one parent with Austrian citizenship, or when it's approved because of personal or family circumstances. But since you can't use that mighty auto-renunciation move anymore, except if you get a third citizenship, there needs to be a separate way to get rid of it. And for that, you do have to tick a few more boxes. Besides having another citizenship, you also need to have completed the military or civil service if a man between 16 and 36, and can't have committed any crimes punishable by more than 6 months, except if you've been living out of country for more than 5 years at a time. Then those two conditions fall through. Finally, you pay 50 to 100 euros in fees and your renunciation's all done. If you're now asking, can I renounce my Austrian citizenship without having any other? I'm a child of the earth, not beholden to any state. Then I say, 1. That's a highly idiotic thing to do, and 2. No. You need to have another citizenship always. Otherwise, you'd be stateless, meaning no valid passport and no diplomatic protection. In short, very bad. That's why you need one to lose the other. Safety glass over the self-destruct button, if you will. A great many countries have those, but not all. The US, for example, does not force you to get a new citizenship before dropping theirs. They point out what a grandly stupid idea it would be to press the button, but if you really, really want to, instead, they have all kinds of other requirements though. It's not enough to just get another citizenship and you're done. There are two ways of getting rid of US citizenship: relinquishing and renouncing. Isn't that the same thing? It is not, but good question. Relinquishing works by acquiring another citizenship, pledging allegiance to another country, or crazy things like serving in an enemy military or treason. But for the relinquishment to be valid, you have to do it with the intention of losing citizenship. If you're doing one of those things without wanting to give it up, your citizenship stays right as it were. And that intention, you gotta prove. So you file a request, everything is checked, and if they believe you, you're rid of your citizenship. If not, all stays the same. Because of that, it makes much more sense to not relinquish, but renounce your citizenship. For that, you officially declare your intention to do so, make an appointment for it, all documents are checked, and if everything's fine, you personally declare your renunciation and get a piece of paper confirming it. The thing that's making that process a smidgen harder than in Austria is that in the USA, no matter if you're relinquishing or renouncing, whether your application goes through or not, you must pay a fee of $2,350 American. That's the highest renunciation fee in the world. Next highest are Jamaica, $1,010, Egypt, $800, and Sierra Leone, $663. But whatever's the reason you're trying to drop your citizenship, one word of warning. It won't help you get out of criminal prosecution, military duty, or tax debt. If you forget paying your taxes for a few years and then try jumping ship to save yourself, not the best idea. And taxes in the US, quite a topic in itself, because they, together with Myanmar, Hungary, and Eritrea, form the small group of countries taxing people by citizenship, no matter where they live or work. Thanks to a bunch of bilateral agreements, double taxation is often prevented, but US expats will have to submit a US tax return every year. What's that got to do with citizenship renunciation? The following. If you renounce your citizenship and are of considerable means, over 2 million in total capital, or an average of 100,000 in annual income tax, you also get to, as a parting gift, pay capital gains tax on all your assets. So when you're renouncing, doesn't matter if you reach that amount or not, you must have filed tax returns for the last 5 years and a separate expatriation tax document. If you have not, you get a notice and a penalty of $10,000 on top of that. In the US, renunciation is possible but complicated and expensive. But it gets even better in Iran. That starts with the fact that you have to be 25 to even be able to renounce. In most countries, you simply have to reach the age of majority. That's 18 in Iran. Still, you can only renounce at 25. Second, you must have already completed the compulsory 18 to 24 months of military service if a man of military age. Third, you have to give up all real estate in Iran and entitlements to such. If you own a beet field in Iran, you won't get rid of that citizenship. All of that is already pretty annoying, but then you have to also, 4, ask the Council of Ministers for permission to renounce. And who knows how interested the Iranian Council of Ministers is in the renunciation wishes of its subjects. In any case, the council can, without stating any reason and without any form of legal recourse, just say no. That's bad luck for you then. But take note, the renunciation of Iranian nationality is legally and practically possible, says the Iranian embassy in the Netherlands. Well, if they state it like that, it must be true. The cherry on top is, if you, despite the unlikelihood of a permission to renounce, try to get that whole process into motion by downloading the renunciation form, the 404 not found, on the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs website, will have you reconsider. Here's the question though. Why would a country not permit its citizens to renounce? What's the use in forcing citizenship on people? Well, with every citizenship come rights and duties. The rights you usually experience much more of, but duties of allegiance, military service, jury functions, and voting are, depending on the country, in force also. But most of all, citizenship means that a country has diplomatic power over your affairs. Let's say you have citizenships of countries A and B. The B one you've been wanting to drop for years, but they won't let you. If you're now imprisoned in country B for espionage, let's say, diplomats from A don't have a great argument against that, because B maintains you are their citizen, so they're responsible for you. A can of course try whatever they want, but as long as you're a citizen of B, it's hard to argue it's not their call. Then there's one more, less practical but highly emotional reason to deny renunciation. Short and bad, hurt national pride. You're a citizen of the greatest country in the world. We have invented writing, the color green, and chocolate ice cream with little cookie chunks in it. We have the best beaches, the highest mountains, and we have by far the most winners in the backward running world championships. Why, for God's sake, would you want to give all that up? Well, it's just, I've been living somewhere else for 10 years now. You threaten every country looking at you the wrong way with annihilation, and you want to force me to stay a subject. Right, those are the reasons. Quick citizenship renunciation option summary. We have had automatic renunciation, renunciation under conditions with low and high fees, and theoretically possible but practically impossible renunciation. But I've got one more. Namely, countries where you can simply not renounce your citizenship at all. Not hard to do, not unlikely, but simply impossible. That's how it is in Argentina. If you've had Argentine citizenship since birth, like the ultimate gum on your shoe, you cannot, in no single case, without exception, without any loopholes, never ever get rid of it. The reason for that is pretty weak on its legs. The state must not deprive its subjects of their citizenship, so losing citizenship is made impossible in general. Even if you ask for it, no chance. It gets especially interesting when you're obligated to give up your old citizenship to acquire a new one. In that case, you still can't, but at least they hand you a document assuring everyone that renunciation is, for reals, never a possibility. Whether the other country accepts that is another question altogether. One possible solution would be a kind of citizenship zero, which lets you stay Argentine on paper, but frees you from all citizenship-related rights and duties. But that also is not possible, because Argentina has not just the most clingy citizenship there is, but also mandatory voting. And since citizens have to vote, a zero version would break the law once again. So no matter what, Argentina's citizenship and all the things that come with it stick with you forever. But to be fair, Argentina isn't alone in that. Costa Rica, Uruguay, Libya, and a few other countries also have no possibility of renunciation. The reason Argentina and others are so darn scared of citizenships being revoked that they make even renouncing them impossible can be seen in Malawi, where the minister in charge can take away people's citizenships on a whim. They don't need a reason for it, and you can't fight the decision in court. And revoking someone's citizenship, obviously a pretty big deal, as rights to residence, voting, and so on are tied to it. In Malawi, one cannot become stateless by losing their citizenship, so it only applies to dual citizens, but still not cool. No matter how you turn it, when a country forces you to keep your citizenship, that's a big problem. Citizenship should reflect a certain connection to a country, ideally a voluntary one. If that connection isn't there anymore, why should you be obligated to keep your citizenship? And it's not like it's just on paper. Retained citizenships can cause major problems. You go on holiday to the old homeland to visit the family, but because you've not completed military service, you're jailed for desertion. It gets even more pressing when you're in line to acquire another citizenship, but are rejected because you cannot renounce your old one. That way, a foreign country indirectly denies you citizenship with all rights and duties in your new home country. If you've built yourself a life in a place, you live and work there, but the old country forces you and possibly even your children to keep its citizenship, that's no less than arbitrary state despotism.